Serafina, the Ice Queen socialite once considered untouchable by everyone, actually walked up to me of her own accord and straddled my lap. She reached out her arms, wrapping them around my neck. Then, with a cold sneer, she slammed a stack of top-secret black accounts, enough to bankrupt the Sinclair family, right into Donovan's arrogant face. Open your damn eyes and look closely. Now, the entirety of Wall Street belongs to Jaxson. Welcome to Windfall, Lord. An exciting story is about to begin. Donovan, did you think you could make me kneel just because you have a hold over my family? Serafina sneered as she slammed a stack of top-secret black accounts, enough to bankrupt the Sinclair family, into his arrogant face. Open your damn eyes and look closely. Now, the entirety of Wall Street belongs to Jaxson. Watching this once unattainable Los Santos Ice Queen charging into battle for me like a lioness protecting her cub, I leaned back leisurely on the leather sofa and blew a perfectly circular smoke ring. You're asking me how a bottom-tier mechanic, who couldn't even afford next month's rent, managed to get the city's top socialite to throw herself at him and grind $100 billion conglomerate under his heel? This whole mess started 48 hours ago on that godforsaken rooftop. At that time, on the roof of an abandoned building in downtown Los Santos, the night wind was strong enough to numb your gums. I was being pinned to the edge of the roof by two mob enforcers whose combined weight easily topped 400 pounds, with half my body already dangling in midair. Below was a drop of dozens of meters. If they let go, I'd become nothing more than an unrecognizable smear of meat on the asphalt. Jaxson, my boy, my patience is running thin. The speaker was Marcus, nicknamed Mad Dog, the most notorious loan shark in West Los Santos. He was dressed in a garish purple suit, chomping on a thick Cuban cigar, and fiddling with a gold-plated Desert Eagle in his hand. $5 million. Marcus exhaled a thick cloud of smoke directly into my face. That short-lived, deadbeat father of yours borrowed my money, and now that he's gone to meet God, the debt falls on you. If I don't see the cash by tonight, I'll chop you into 80 pieces and feed you to the pit bulls in my backyard. $5 million? As God is my witness, the most money I'd ever seen in my life was the $800 weekly paycheck the garage owner handed me yesterday. I struggled violently and shouted, Marcus, I didn't know anything about this money. You could squeeze me dry, and you still wouldn't get a single dollar out of me. Then that's a real shame, Marcus sneered, waving a hand toward his men. Just as the two thugs were about to let go, a lazy and seductive female voice suddenly drifted over from the side. Darling, why waste your breath on him? Just throw him down already. I'm in a hurry to get to the midnight party. I struggled to turn my head and saw the woman beside Marcus. It was his mistress, Eva, a recognized bombshell in the Los Santos underworld. She was wearing a wine-red haute couture deep V-slip dress, holding a glass of champagne, looking at me as if I were a trivial bug. It's over. I'm completely dead now. I closed my eyes in despair. Just when I thought I was about to experience a free fall, a cold, emotionless mechanical female voice suddenly rang out deep within my mind. Alert! Host's vital signs are under extreme threat. Goddess's secret system is force binding. Binding successful. I snapped my eyes open, almost thinking I was hallucinating. A system? The kind of cheat code that only exists in web novels actually landed on a loser like me? The mechanical female voice continued to broadcast in my mind. System scan initiated. Locking onto target. A-rank underground socialite. Eva. Absolute privacy secret detected. Eva is currently 4 weeks pregnant. The biological father of the fetus is Marcus's greatest arch-nemesis, the East Side gang leader, Raymond. Newbie gift pack triggered. Congratulations to the host for successfully uncovering the first goddess secret. The system rewards you with 1 unlimited black card. Initial funds of 10 million USD have been legally remitted to your anonymous Swiss bank account. I froze. $10 million? And that earth-shattering bombshell about Eva's pregnancy? Wait a minute! I suddenly erupted with a burst of strength from out of nowhere, gripping the rooftop railing tightly as I roared at Marcus. I have the money! I can give it to you right now! Marcus raised his hand, signaling his men to pause. He walked up to me, tilting my chin up with the barrel of his gun, looking at me as if I were a madman. Jaxson, did you piss your pants so hard you fried your brain? Take your phone and check my account. I squeezed a defiant smile through my teeth and recited a string of offshore account numbers that the system had just imprinted in my mind. Marcus skeptically called his accountant. A minute later, his expression shifted. The look in his eyes changed from contempt to utter shock. $5 million, not a cent missing. And the source of the funds was as clean as freshly laundered sheets. Let him down. Marcus holstered his gun, a hint of wariness creeping into his voice. In this city, anyone who could mobilize such a large sum of cash at a moment's notice was definitely no ordinary mechanic. I patted the dust off my clothes and straightened my worn-out jacket. The feeling of being reborn was absolutely exhilarating. The debt is settled. I walked up to Marcus and whispered in a voice only the two of us could hear. As a little bonus, Boss Marcus, I suggest you take your beautiful woman to the hospital for an ultrasound. Old man Raymond's ability to sow seeds is far better than yours. Marcus's body stiffened violently, his eyes bulging wide in an instant. He turned his head in disbelief, staring fixedly at Eva, who was touching up her makeup not far away. I knew that this bomb had been completely detonated. I ignored the bloodbath about to erupt behind me, whistling as I swaggered off the rooftop, with that $10 million black card gripped in my hand. My blood was absolutely boiling. If the secret of an underground woman could fetch 10 million, what about the top-tier socialites in this city, the ones standing high above, holding the true keys to wealth, beneath their glamorous exteriors? How many priceless secrets were they hiding? My good life was only just beginning. What does it feel like to wander the streets of Los Santos with $10 million in your pocket? It's like being a vagrant who could only afford moldy burgers, only to have someone suddenly cram an entire Michelin-starred restaurant into your stomach. It felt amazing. But it wasn't enough. System. Locate the most valuable target in this city for me. I snapped my fingers at the air, sitting in the backseat of a top-of-the-line black Maybach I had just picked up. In my mind, that emotionless, mechanical female voice responded instantly. Radar scan initiated. Locked on to the penthouse ballroom of the Peninsula Hotel, downtown Los Santos. Target, Serafina Sterling, sole heir to the Sterling Financial Group. Known as the Ice Queen Socialite of Los Santos. System prompt. The target is currently in a forced engagement banquet, and their emotional state is extremely unstable. Uncover their core secret to receive a Super S-rank reward. I raised an eyebrow. Serafina? The top-tier socialite who always looks like she's wearing a mask of ice. The one who would reject even the mayor of Los Santos if he asked her for coffee. Interesting. Security at the peninsula was as tight as the Pentagon, but I casually tossed $20,000 in cash to the bellhop, and paired with my newly donned Tom Ford bespoke suit. Those arrogant guards didn't dare utter a word. They simply gave me a 90-degree bow and respectfully ushered me into the VIP elevator. The elevator doors opened on the top floor, and a wave of decadent classical music hit me. The entire banquet hall had been decorated to resemble the Palace of Versailles, filled everywhere with the nauseating scent of champagne and the hypocritical laughter of the Vanity Fair. I locked onto Serafina in the crowd at a single glance. She was too dazzling. A minimalist, backless evening gown in pure white traced the lines of her perfect figure to the last detail. Her long golden hair was swept up, revealing a slender, porcelain swan neck. But in those ice-blue eyes of hers, there wasn't a trace of the joy expected of a bride-to-be. Instead, they flickered with a desperation bordering on collapse. Standing beside her in a white tuxedo, holding a wine glass and bragging to anyone who would listen, was that bird-brained idiot Donovan, the young master of the Sinclair Group. This grandson of a bitch was a notorious playboy who had ruined countless good girls, relying entirely on his family's influence. Deep system scan complete. The mechanical female voice rang out again, this time carrying a rare hint of warning. Targeting top secret hidden affliction. Hypersensitive contact analgesia syndrome variant. Once the target is touched by a non-blood-related member of the opposite sex, her nervous system triggers a violent rejection response, akin to 10,000 needles piercing the heart. She is currently consuming large quantities of potent neuroparalytics developed on the black market to maintain a facade of calm. But the drug's efficacy is on the verge of collapse. Should she suffer an episode at tonight's engagement ball, the Sinclair family will use it as a pretext to completely swallow the Sterling conglomerate. System reward mechanism triggered. If the host successfully intervenes and takes control of the situation, you will receive 1 Neuroblocker Master Experience card and $100 million in unlimited leveraged buyout funds. $100 million? I nearly crushed the crystal goblet in my hand. Looking at the center of the hall, Donovan was leering as he held Serafina by the waist, preparing to glide onto the dance floor. I could clearly see a layer of cold sweat breaking out on Serafina's smooth back. Her face was as pale as paper, and her body was trembling uncontrollably. It was a physiological reaction to extreme agony. This woman was truly ruthless. To save her family, she was gritting her teeth and enduring this inhuman torture. Sorry, excuse me. Without hesitation, I pushed aside several Wall Street elites blocking my path and strode toward the center of the dance floor. Just as Donovan was about to press his disgusting mouth against Serafina's face, I clamped my hand down on his shoulder. Man, your moves look like a duck in heat. This dance, let me take over. The entire room went dead silent. The music screeched to a halt, and hundreds of eyes stared at me as if I were an alien. Who the hell are you? Donovan froze for a moment, then exploded in rage. In Los Santos, no one had ever dared to disrespect him like this. I ignored the barking stray dog and looked directly at Serafina. She was staring at me in shock, her eyes filled with wariness and a trace of imperceptible panic. I know it feels like tens of thousands of ants are gnawing at your bone marrow right now. I lowered my voice, speaking at a volume only the two of us could hear. That damn drug has already worn off, hasn't it? Hold on for one more minute, and you'll be foaming at the mouth in front of the entire Los Santos media. Serafina's pupils contracted sharply, the last trace of icy disguise in her eyes shattering instantly. How do you know? Her voice trembled like a leaf in the wind. System. Activate the Neuroblock Master Trial card. I issued the command in my mind. In the next second, I felt a strange, warm current surging through my fingertips. Ignoring her instinctive flinch, I assertively grasped her cold, violently convulsing right hand. A miracle occurred. The moment I took hold of her, Seraphina's body stiffened as she squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the familiar, piercing agony. However, nothing happened. Instead, an unprecedented, intoxicating warmth and tranquility spread rapidly from my palm throughout her entire body. Her trembling ceased, and an incredulous flush even appeared on her pale face. She snapped her eyes open and stared at me intently, as if looking at a deity descended to earth. Now, do you still want to dance with this duck? I arched an eyebrow at her, a playful smile curling at the corners of my mouth. Security! Where is security? Get this lunatic out of here. I don't care which slum he crawled out of. Break his legs. Donovan finally snapped, roaring in a fit of rage, his handsome face contorted like a grotesque clown. Several burly security guards in black suits immediately drew their telescopic batons and charged toward me with menacing expressions. I kept my grip tight on Seraphina's hand, looking at the frantic Donovan, far from feeling even a hint of fear. I couldn't help but let out a short laugh. It seems it's time to show these self-righteous Los Santos plutocrats what a true dimensional strike looks like. Stop! Everyone! Stand down! Donovan suddenly raised his hand, restraining the security guards who were lunging forward like rabid dogs. He adjusted the bow tie of his pristine white tuxedo and approached me with an incredibly arrogant stride, scanning me up and down with the kind of look one might give a sewer rat. Let me guess, which cheap rental shop did you get that Tom Ford from? Or did you snatch it from some rich guy's car when he wasn't looking? Donovan let out a piercing sneer, prompting a wave of mocking laughter from the surrounding guests who clung to the Sinclair family. He suddenly jabbed his finger toward my chest, but I simply shifted my weight slightly, causing his finger to poke at empty air. Kid, do you have any idea how much the carpet you're standing on is worth? Do you know that this Peninsula Grand Hotel is the most prestigious landmark in downtown Los Santos? Donovan spread his arms wide like a clown declaring sovereignty. The total valuation here exceeds $10 billion. My Sinclair family is the biggest VIP here, and a piece of trash like you, who grew up eating garbage in the slums, doesn't even have the right to breathe the air in this place. Listening to his rapid-fire insults, I didn't even bother to raise an eyelid. My entire focus was on the system interface that had just popped up in my mind. Ding! Detected that the villain target, Donovan Sinclair, is engaging in extreme, arrogant class-based humiliation. Absolute face slap counterattack mission triggered. The system has activated a limited-time dimensional strike authority for the host. $10 billion in temporary acquisition funds are in place. Target locked. The Los Santos Peninsula Grand Hotel. Full acquisition countdown begins. 10, 9, 8, 10 billion. Is it? I let go of Seraphina's hand, slowly pulled an old phone with a cracked screen from my pocket, and looked up at the hotel lobby manager standing behind Donovan with a sycophantic expression. What was your name? Pierre, right? Pierre froze for a moment, then quickly adopted a look of disdain. Sir, please leave immediately. Don't force us to get physical. You are dirtying our priceless floors. I'm asking you, I said, ignoring his threat as a cold smirk played on my lips. This dilapidated building, 10 billion, are you selling or not? As soon as these words were spoken, the entire banquet hall instantly erupted into deafening roars of laughter. Donovan laughed until tears came to his eyes, pointing at me as if looking at a psychiatric patient. Good God, this kid is insane. What does he think 10 billion is? Does he think it's spare change he uses to buy hot dogs on the street? 7, 6, 5. The system countdown echoed coldly in my mind. System. Confirm full acquisition. I silently issued the command in my heart. 4, 3, 2, 1. Ding! 10 billion US dollars has been instantly settled through offshore shell companies. 100% ownership of the Peninsula Hotel has been transferred to the host. Relevant legal documents have been automatically generated and sent to the hotel's board of directors. At the exact moment the system notification faded, the invisible earpiece tucked in Pierre's ear suddenly began flashing a frantic red light. Pierre, who had been mocking me alongside Donovan just a moment ago, turned deathly pale in an instant. It was as if he had heard something utterly terrifying. Beads of sweat the size of beans rolled down his bald forehead. His legs began to tremble uncontrollably, and he nearly dropped the walkie-talkie in his hand. What's wrong? Pierre? Hurry up and call someone to throw this psycho out, Donovan roared impatiently. But Pierre ignored Donovan completely. Like a zombie, he turned around mechanically and stumbled toward me. Then, under the gaze of hundreds of wealthy and powerful figures, Pierre did something that left everyone's jaws on the floor. His knees buckled, and with a heavy thud, he knelt directly before me. Mr. Vance. Pierre's voice was as raspy as a strangled duck, thick with terror and awe. Just now, the board at headquarters sent an emergency notice. You are now the sole owner of this hotel. This entire building, down to every single brick, belongs to you. Silence. A deathly silence. The once boisterous banquet hall fell instantly silent. leaving only the faint hum of the air conditioning. Everyone, including Donovan, froze as if under a binding spell, their eyes nearly bulging out of their sockets. 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds. With 10 billion in cash, I had bought the city's most expensive landmark. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. It's a scam, Donovan screamed hysterically, his handsome face completely contorted by extreme shock and humiliation. He violently grabbed Pierre by the collar. He's a mechanic. Where would he get 10 billion? Did you even check properly? Presumptuous, I barked coldly, my gaze sweeping over Donovan like a blade. Pierre, since I am the owner here, I am now issuing the first rule. I pointed at the raving Donovan and said, emphasizing every word, I hate this man's face. Have security throw him. And all those Sinclair family dogs who came with him. Out the front door. Remember, throw them out. From now on, they are banned from setting foot on any of my properties. Pierre didn't dare hesitate for a second. He immediately snarled at the security personnel like a mad dog. What are you standing around for? Didn't you hear the boss's orders? Escort Mr. Donovan out. Several burly security guards instantly pounced on Donovan like wolves. The man who, moments ago, was Los Santos's most dazzling rising star was now being hoisted up by two strongmen and dragged out by force like a stray dog. Jaxson, you just wait. You dare humiliate the Sinclair family? I'll make sure there's nothing left of you. Donovan cursed desperately in the hallway, but his voice was quickly cut off by the heavy doors. I turned around and looked at Serafina, who was still standing beside me in a state of extreme shock. Having forgotten even to breathe, I extended a hand to her with the utmost gallantry, flashing a devastatingly charming smile. Beautiful lady, the air here is far too foul. I wonder if I might have the honor of inviting you to my passenger seat for a drive? As the system enhanced, pitch-black Koenigsegg masterpiece erupted with a beast-like roar along the Pacific Coast Highway. Serafina gripped the leather door handle tightly, her exquisite face still etched with lingering shock. But I didn't even have time to admire the profile of this Ice Queen socialite. In the rearview mirror, 3 fully armed black Cadillac Escalades were snapping at our heels like rabid dogs. I didn't need to guess to know that these were the family mercenaries dispatched by a humiliated and enraged Donovan. In Los Santos, the Sinclair family never accepts defeat. They only accept their opponents becoming corpses. Thud! A large caliber sniper bullet grazed the Koenigsegg's bulletproof glass, sending a long trail of blinding sparks flying. Damn it! They're firing! Jaxson, just how much trouble did you get us into? Serafina cried out, instinctively ducking her head. Correction, the trouble we got into. I jerked the steering wheel hard, and the Koenigsegg executed a stunningly beautiful and perilous drift at 180 miles per hour, forcing its way through the narrow gap between 2 heavy trucks driving against traffic. But don't worry, back home, a chase like this is just a post-dinner stroll. System warning, rear vehicle rocket launcher lock-on detected. Impact expected in 3 seconds. Hearing the mechanical voice in my head, I didn't panic. Instead, I slammed the accelerator to the floor in excitement. Hold on tight, princess. I pressed the nitrous oxide button on the center console. The powerful G-force instantly pinned us to our seats as the Koenigsegg, like a bolt of black lightning, tore through the encirclement amidst the flames of exploding rockets. The temporary safety didn't make me slow down. I maintained a speed of 200 miles per hour, racing along the cliffside highway while turning my head to look at the shaken Serafina. All right, now that those annoying flies have been left behind for a bit, we can talk business. I gripped the steering wheel with one hand while rummaging through the storage compartment with the other to find a cigar. Placing it in my mouth, I continued, Serafina, I heard you earned a double degree at Wharton. How about we play a simple game of game theory? Serafina gasped for air, her ice blue eyes flickering with a complex mix of fury and confusion. What kind of monster are you? You bought a $10 billion hotel in 10 seconds, and now you're racing down the highway like a professional hitman. What exactly are you trying to do? It's simple. I exhaled a plume of smoke, my voice remaining clear and powerful despite the howling wind. You're currently facing a classic prisoner's dilemma. But the options are even worse. If you go back obediently today, Donovan will use that secret of yours to blackmail you. Not only will your family be devoured alive by the Sinclair group, but you'll spend the rest of your life as that freak's plaything. At the mention of that hidden affliction, Serafina's body jolted violently. She bit her lower lip, offering no rebuttal. But if you choose to ally with me, the situation changes entirely. I slammed on the brakes, the car emitting a piercing screech before a treacherous hairpin turn. Half of the tires were suspended in midair over a coastal cliff dozens of meters high. Serafina let out a terrified scream, squeezing her eyes shut. I gripped the steering wheel firmly, pulling the car back on track and continuing to speed ahead. Open your eyes and look at me. Serafina, I roared, my voice laced with unquestionable dominance. I have the financial power to destroy Donovan. And just now, I proved that I can easily seize your fatal weakness, or even cure it. And you possess all the internal intelligence of the Sinclair family, and the access to Los Santos high society. I forced her to meet my gaze, My eyes filled with aggression. Cast aside those useless fears. Don't be a discarded pawn on Donovan's chessboard. Be my queen. Together, we will tear the Sinclair family out by the roots. Serafina froze. She looked at me as if she were looking at a madman from hell. In Los Santos, the Sinclair family was the law. No one had ever dared to utter the words uproot them. In the rearview mirror, those 3 Cadillacs reappeared in sight. And the distance was closing rapidly. Ahead lay a massive abandoned industrial zone. And the system had already mapped out the perfect escape route. Why should I believe you? Even if you have 10 billion. The Sinclair family's assets are worth over 100 billion. Serafina's voice still carried a hint of a tremble. But her eyes were no longer filled with pure terror. Instead, a spark of madness had ignited within them. Because I didn't let you plunge off that cliff just now. I laughed wildly and slammed the steering wheel all the way to the side. The Koenigsegg smashed through the rusted chain-link fence of the industrial zone, hurtling toward the incredibly narrow gap between 2 massive oil refinery towers. That gap is too narrow. We're going to crash and die. Serafina screamed. 3 seconds. Give me your answer. I had no intention of slowing down. My eyes locked dead ahead. Ally with me. And we live to crush Donovan together. Refuse. And we turn into a barbecue in this godforsaken factory together. 3, 2, 1. You lunatic. I promise. I'll do whatever you say. Serafina let out a roar born of pure desperation. It was a pleasure working with you. A cruel smile curled at the corners of my mouth as I yanked the handbrake. The Koenigsegg executed an incredible lateral slide through the impossibly narrow gap, flying out amidst a shower of sparks as it scraped against the metal walls of the towers on both sides. The 3 Escalades trailing closely behind had no time to react. With several deafening crashes, they slammed into the rigid refining towers one after another, instantly erupting into 3 massive fireballs that soared into the sky. The shockwave from the explosion pushed against the rear of our car. I took the momentum to floor the accelerator and sped out of the sea of flames. I pulled the car over on a piece of high ground outside the industrial zone and turned to look at Serafina in the passenger seat. She was gasping for breath, drenched in sweat, but within those once cold blue eyes now burned an unprecedented ambition and the thrill of revenge. Jaxson, she said, looking at the blazing fire in the distance, her voice as cold as an unsheathed blade. The Sinclair family is holding a core family dinner at the Midhill Manor tomorrow night. Donovan's father, that old fox, will be there too. If you really have the guts, we'll go and crash their party tomorrow night. I smiled and rubbed my chin, suiting my taste perfectly. Let's go prepare a grand gift for that old man. The Sinclair family's Midhill Manor was essentially the Palace of Versailles scaled and moved into the wealthy district of Los Santos. Roman columns, expensive oil paintings, and servants gliding like ghosts with sterling silver trays were everywhere. When Serafina and I walked side by side through the luxurious banquet hall doors made of solid gold, the Los Santos tycoons and socialites, who had been whispering moments before, suddenly looked as if they had been strangled. The entire hall fell into a deathly silence. Serafina was breathtakingly beautiful tonight, dressed in a deep black velvet haute couture gown and leaning on my arm. She looked like a cold queen inspecting her domain. As for me, I was still wearing the Tom Ford suit I bought yesterday, but my gaze was more arrogant than any of the old foxes in the room. Security, are you blind? Who let this gutter trash in here? Donovan spotted me instantly. The bruises on his face hadn't faded yet, and he jumped up like a rabid dog that had its tail stepped on. Shut up, Donovan. Yelling in front of guests, where are the Sinclair family manners? At the head of the table, a man with graying hair and eyes as sharp as a vulture's slowly set down his wine glass. This was Donovan's father, the helmsman of the Sinclair group, Bartholomew. Sitting beside him was his young fourth wife, Isabella, renowned for both her beauty and her cunning. Bartholomew scrutinized me with a condescending gaze, a hypocritical sneer curling his lips. Mr. Jaxson Vance, I presume? I heard you spent 10 billion to buy my Peninsula Hotel yesterday and snatched my son's fiancée right out from under him. Young man, having a bit of nouveau riche luck is indeed something to be proud of. But in Los Santos, wealth without heritage is like a slab of fat hanging in front of a pack of wolves. He paused, pulling a checkbook from his breast pocket. I'll give you 10 million in cash, plus a one-way ticket to South America. Leave Serafina and never set foot in Los Santos again. Otherwise, I guarantee you won't live to see tomorrow's sunrise. After hearing this, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. The sound echoed through the vast banquet hall, laced with undisguised mockery. 10 million? Old man Bartholomew, are you suffering from senile dementia? Or are you just pathologically broke? I pulled out a chair and sat down with an arrogant swagger. You're trying to brush off a billionaire boss with pocket change that wouldn't even cover the cost of fueling my cars? Bartholomew's expression instantly darkened. You reckless piece of trash. I ignored his threat, as within my mind, the system had already completed a deep scan of the entire room. System prompt, locked onto the core female target, Isabella Sinclair. Target's top secret weakness /dirt. Isabella possesses the original ledgers documenting the Sinclair Group's laundering and embezzlement of up to $5 billion from the Los Santos Police Pension Fund. Currently, these ledgers are encrypted and stored in her private Swiss cloud server. She is planning to abscond with the funds next month and elope with Bartholomew's personal bodyguard. System reward mechanism triggered. Successfully expose the scandal and destroy the Sinclair family's reputation to receive one global network information infiltration card and a $20 billion short-selling fund. $20 billion! I licked my lips in excitement and turned my gaze toward Isabella, who was currently posing as an elegant noblewoman. Lady Isabella, that limited edition Cartier diamond necklace around your neck is truly beautiful. I leaned forward, crossing my hands on the table, my eyes sharp as blades. However, I am curious. Was the money used to buy that necklace embezzled from the Los Santos police pension accounts? Or was it laundered through your so-called East Coast Charitable Foundation? The moment those words were spoken, the air in the entire banquet hall seemed to freeze instantly. The color drained from Isabella's face instantly, and the sterling silver fork in her hand hit the plate with a sharp clatter. Bartholomew's pupils contracted violently as he stared at me with a deathly gaze. What kind of nonsense are you spouting here? Donovan roared, exasperated and frantic. Nonsense? I let out a cold sneer and directly activated the information reading ability granted by the system. I began rattling off a string of numbers and letters as fluently as if I were reciting a textbook. UBS. Account ending in 4792. That's your secret account. Isn't it, Isabella? And that encrypted cloud file, with a password set to the anniversary of the first time you slept with that bodyguard named Ren. It clearly documents that the Sinclair Group currently has a capital black hole amounting to $5 billion. The entire room erupted in an uproar. The elites who had originally clung to the Sinclair family now wore expressions of terror, looking as if they couldn't distance themselves fast enough. Embezzling police pensions? That was a felony punishable by decades in prison. Nonsense. Security. Rip out his tongue. Bartholomew finally lost his facade of lofty hypocrisy. He slammed his hand on the table, roaring like an infuriated lion. But I remained as steady as a mountain, even calmly picking up my wine glass to take a sip. Bartholomew, don't you know yet? I looked at this once invincible old tycoon, my eyes filled with pity. Your most trusted young wife not only possesses ironclad evidence of all your crimes, but she also plans to take your money and head to Hawaii next month to spend the rest of her life with your bodyguard. And you pathetic old man, once this comes to light, you'll be torn to shreds in a federal maximum security prison by the families of police officers who lost their pensions because of you. You. Bartholomew pointed a trembling finger at me, then whipped his head around to look at Isabella, who was pale and shaking uncontrollably. Isabella's terror-stricken reaction had completely confirmed everything I had said. Extreme rage, a sense of betrayal, an immense panic instantly shattered the 70-year-old man's psychological defenses. Bartholomew's face turned from red to purple, and a violent wheezing, like a broken bellows, erupted from his throat. Father! Donovan screamed in terror. In the next second, Bartholomew's eyes rolled back. With a sickening thud, a mouthful of dark red blood sprayed directly onto the pristine white tablecloth in front of him. Clutching his chest, he collapsed heavily onto the dining table like a felled, withered tree, losing consciousness. It seems the Sinclair family dinner was a bit too greasy for an old man. I stood up, straightened the hem of my suit, and let out a loud whistle at the chaotic banquet hall. Taking Seraphina's hand, which was trembling slightly with excitement, I sauntered out of the solid gold doors under the horrified gazes of dozens of bodyguards. The real show has only just begun. The news of old man Bartholomew coughing up blood and collapsing at the banquet spread through every dark corner of Los Santos, as if it had grown wings. But Seraphina and I both knew that as long as Sinclair Group's stock was still listed on the Nasdaq, this behemoth could wake up and bite at any moment, to completely destroy them. Their blood must be drained dry on the battlefield of Wall Street. In downtown Los Santos, on the top floor of the Peninsula Hotel, inside my newly acquired exclusive luxury presidential suite. Good God, Jaxson, where on earth did you get this money? $20 billion in liquid assets. Even robbing the Federal Reserve wouldn't be this fast? Sitting in front of several ultra-high-definition curved monitors was my best friend and top-tier tech geek, Zeke, wearing a Star Wars t-shirt stained with pizza sauce and sporting two massive dark circles under his eyes. He was as hyper as a monkey on stimulants. Cut the chatter, Zeke. I patted his shoulder and pushed a cup of iced black coffee toward him. The system, the funds, are all in place. Now, I need you to do two things. I turned to look at Seraphina, who was sitting on the sofa and had already changed into a sharp, professional black suit. She gave me a firm nod. First, take that original ledger you have regarding the Sinclair Group's $5 billion black hole of misappropriated police pensions, and send it through the special encrypted channel I gave you. Send it simultaneously to the SEC, the FBI, and the top 50 news outlets in the country. I want this news to become a nuclear bomb before the stock market opens tomorrow morning. I looked Zeke in the eye and said, emphasizing every word. Second, I want you to use that 20 billion in capital to short the Sinclair Group into the ground the very second the market opens. I don't care how they try to protect the price. Smash their stock right through the center of the earth. Copy that, sir. Just watch me. Zeke's 10 fingers turned into a blur across the keyboard. The network-wide information penetration card rewarded by the system was nothing short of a dimensional strike. No firewall could block this torrent of data. Within a mere 10 minutes, the Sinclair family's shocking scandal had seized the headlines of every mainstream media outlet. Wall Street is in an absolute frenzy. At 9:30 a.m., the opening bell at the Nasdaq had just finished ringing. Sinclair Group's stock price plummeted like a kite with a severed string, crashing 30% at the open. Subsequently, under the relentless pressure of the $20 billion short-selling capital controlled by Zeke, the institutions and retail investors who had been sitting on the sidelines completely collapsed, beginning to sell off their holdings frantically at any cost. 40%, 50%, 60%. In just 2 short hours, the Sinclair Group, a behemoth once valued at $100 billion, saw more than half of its market value evaporate. In a single day, Donovan went from being a high and mighty Chable heir to a debtor facing imminent bankruptcy and liquidation. This is incredible, Jaxson. We hit the jackpot. Their capital chain has completely snapped, Zeke shouted in excitement, staring at the cascading waterfall of green on the screen. I was just about to pour a glass of champagne to celebrate when an extremely sharp system alarm suddenly blared in my mind. Red alert. Lethal physical threat detected. Target individual Donovan Sinclair has hired retired Blackwater Special Forces operators via the dark web. 6 heavily armed assassins have reached your floor via the freight elevator. Breach expected in 10 seconds. Get down! Without a moment's hesitation, I slammed Zeke, who was still staring at the screen, to the floor, while roaring a warning to Serafina nearby to find cover. Boom! A deafening blast followed as the heavy, bulletproof solid wood door of the presidential suite was shattered by a directional charge. Thick acrid smoke and the blinding glare of flashbangs instantly filled the room. Immediately after, several assassins clad in black tactical vests and night vision goggles stormed in like ghosts, their submachine guns opening fire indiscriminately. Expensive leather sofas and multi-million-dollar artworks were torn to shreds in an instant. That bastard Donovan, he couldn't beat me in the stock market. So he actually flipped the table and resorted to assassination. If I were still Jaxson the mechanic, I'd be riddled with bullets by now. But now, with the wealth and heightened senses granted by the system, these mercenaries look like they're moving in slow motion to me, using the wreckage of the sofa as cover. I glided silently like a leopard toward the nearest killer. Before he could swing his muzzle around, I slammed a fist into his throat, followed by the crisp sound of bones snapping. I seized the submachine gun from his hands in one fluid motion, performed a tactical roll, and decisively pulled the trigger on the remaining assassins. Bang! 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 Precise short bursts. In just a few seconds, the remaining 5 assassins fell one after another into pools of blood, the air thick with the heavy scent of iron. I kicked aside a corpse at my feet and walked over to the lead mercenary. He was clinging to his last breath, his hand tightly gripping a satellite phone that was still in the middle of a call. I crouched down, picked up the phone, and held it to my ear. From the other end came Donovan's frantic, beast-like roar. Is he dead yet? I want that piece of shit Jaxson dead. I want him ground into mincemeat. I let out a cold smirk and spoke leisurely into the receiver. Donovan, you still have such a temper. Unfortunately, these losers you spent a fortune on didn't even manage to touch a single hair on my head. The other end of the line fell into a sudden, deathly silence, broken only by Donovan's rapid, panicked breathing. Listen, you idiot, I said, my voice icy as I pronounced his death sentence word by word. Your stocks are now worthless paper. Your old man is hooked up to tubes in a hospital, and your hitman is currently bleeding out on my carpet. Now, keep your neck clean and wait. The real judgment is coming for you. Right now. I crushed the satellite phone in my hand and turned to look at Serafina, who was slowly standing up from behind the cover, looking at the mess and the corpses strewn across the floor. She showed no sign of fear. Instead, her gaze became sharper than ever before. It's your time to shine, my queen. I draped a custom-made black trench coat over her shoulders. Sinclair Group's emergency board meeting starts in half an hour. Go. Go take back everything that belongs to you. And utterly crush Donovan's last shred of hope. On the top floor of the Sinclair Group headquarters, inside the circular panoramic boardroom that once decided the fate of countless lives in Los Santos, an extremely ugly farce was currently unfolding. The Wall Street crash had caused this group of suit-clad vampires to lose their minds completely. Ashtrays were smashed on the floor, and several elderly directors were clutching Donovan by the collar, hurling insults and demanding his immediate resignation, along with the release of the final emergency reserves to plug the financial hole. Everyone shut up. I am the heir to the Sinclair family. This company is mine. Donovan's eyes were bloodshot, his hair as disheveled as a madman's. He roared hysterically from the end of the long table. My father isn't dead yet. As long as we take out that bastard Jaxson, As long as we force the Sterling family to inject capital, we can turn this around. Thud. Two extremely heavy mahogany doors were kicked open violently from the outside, the dull thud of the impact instantly plunging the conference room into silence. A comeback? Donovan, you've lost everything down to your underwear. What are you going to use to stage a comeback? That mouth of yours that does nothing but stir up trouble? I strolled across the threshold with my hands in my pockets, casually chewing gum. In front of me, Serafina marched into the Sinclair family's core boardroom like a haughty Valkyrie, her aura in full force as she stepped in her sharp Christian Louboutin red bottoms. Security! Where is the head of security? Who let this pair of bastards in? Shoot them dead! Seeing us, Donovan screamed in a mix of terror and rage, looking as if he had just laid eyes on debt collectors from hell. Several armed security guards in black, who had been standing in the corners, exchanged glances, but none of them moved a muscle. I smiled and snapped my fingers. Stop shouting, Donovan. In Los Santos, loyalty is settled in US dollars. 10 minutes ago, I bought out the security system for this entire building with triple the salary. Now, they only listen to me. Donovan trembled all over. He stared fixedly at Serafina as if clutching at a final straw, threatening her with a distorted, hideous expression. Serafina, you bitch! You dare betray me? Do you believe I'll leak that damn hidden illness of yours to the entire internet right now? I'll make the Sterling family lose everything. Faced with such a low-life threat, Serafina didn't back down in the slightest. Instead, she let out a contemptuous laugh. In that smile was a sense of relief, finally released after being suppressed for countless days and nights. She walked to the long table and grabbed a thick stack of documents, which were filled with the top-secret illicit accounts Zeke had cracked, evidence enough to ensure the Sinclair family spent the rest of their lives behind bars. Slap! Serafina slammed the stack of documents hard against Donovan's arrogant, sweat-drenched face, the papers scattering across the conference table like snowflakes. Donovan, did you think holding my family hostage would make me kneel? Serafina sneered, looking down at him with utter contempt. Did you think your pathetic little schemes would still work? Open your eyes and look closely. Right now, the entirety of Wall Street belongs to Jaxson. Donovan recoiled from the impact. He frantically grabbed a few sheets of paper from the table, and with just one glance, his entire body began to tremble violently as if struck by an electric shock. Embezzlement of police funds, overseas money laundering, accounting fraud. Every single entry was enough to sentence him to more than 200 years in prison. These are forgeries. You're framing me, Donovan argued desperately. Whether it's a frame-up or not, you can save your explanation for the FBI agents. Serafina leaned her hands on the table, looking like a presiding judge reading a verdict. By the way, I should inform the board that in the past hour, Mr. Jaxson has been aggressively buying up shares on the secondary market. Combined with the private acquisition of minority stakes from several of you, he now holds an absolute controlling interest of 51% in the Sinclair Group. Serafina turned her head to look at the directors, whose faces had turned ashen, and announced sternly, from this second forward, the Sinclair Group is officially under a hostile takeover. Donovan Sinclair, you are fired. No, this is impossible. You can't do this to me. I am the king of Los Santos. Donovan collapsed into his chair, clutching his hair tightly as he let out a wail of despair. But no one felt any sympathy for him. A flurry of heavy footsteps echoed from outside the door as a dozen fully armed federal agents swarmed in. The lead agent pulled out a pair of gleaming handcuffs. Donovan Sinclair, you are under arrest for massive financial fraud, money laundering, and the attempted contract killing of Mr. Jaxson Vance. This is a warrant for your arrest. You have the right to remain silent. The agents gave him no chance to resist, pinning him directly against the table and wrenching his arms behind his back to cuff him. Jaxson, rot in hell. I'll haunt you even as a ghost. Donovan was dragged out of the conference room like a dead dog. His shrill, wretched curses echoed through the hallway, but to my ears, they sounded like the sweetest music. A deathly silence filled the conference room. Those directors, who were once high and mighty and insufferably arrogant, now didn't even dare to breathe too loudly, fearing they would be the next to be purged. Serafina walked slowly to the head of the conference table, to the chairman's throne that had originally belonged to Bartholomew, and later to Donovan. She turned around and sat down with a movement that was both exquisitely elegant and domineering. She looked up, her eyes, which had regained their coldness and nobility, swept across the room before finally resting her gaze on me. She didn't speak, but I understood the meaning in her eyes. The sky over Los Santos had changed completely. On the top floor of the Sinclair building, inside the ultra-luxurious private office of the former chairman, Bartholomew, as the last director, who had come to pledge his loyalty and tremblingly signed the unconditional equity transfer agreement, retreated from the room. This office, once regarded as the pinnacle of power in Los Santos, finally fell into complete silence. Outside the window, the setting sun was as red as blood. The sunset glow, looking as if it had been stained by gore, shrouded this city where sin and money intertwined, as if singing a final elegy for the total collapse of the Sinclair family. I unceremoniously propped my dust-covered leather shoes onto the priceless one-wally wood desk, sinking my entire body into the leather executive chair while taking a deep drag of a premium Cuban cigar swiped from Bartholomew's private humidor. Beep, the dedicated line on the desk rang. Zeke's voice, raspy with extreme excitement, came through the speakerphone. Boss, the liquidation is complete. The Sinclair Group is officially history. The restructured Vance Sterling Holding Group has fully taken over all their core industries, combined with the profits we made from shorting the stock market. Your personal net worth has officially surpassed $300 billion. Zeke swallowed hard, his voice trembling. My God, Jaxson, if you so much as sneeze now, Los Santos economy will suffer an 8-magnitude earthquake. You are already the king of this city. Good job, Zeke. Go pick out a bulletproof armored supercar for yourself. Put it on the company's tab. I smiled and hung up the phone. A rich scent of perfume approached, accompanied by the crisp clicking of high heels. Serafina walked up to my desk, carrying 2 glasses of Macallan vintage whiskey. The aggressive, murderous aura she had carried when she first entered the conference room had vanished. Now, a flicker of near-fanatical admiration shimmered in the depths of her eyes. $300 billion. Serafina handed me one of the glasses, a captivating smile playing on her lips. Even the Sterling Group and the Sinclair family combined at their peak wouldn't amount to a tenth of what you are now. Jaxson, what kind of miracle are you? Exactly? I took the glass but didn't drink immediately. Instead, I looked her straight in the eye. Why? Afraid I'll turn into the next Donovan and swallow you whole? Serafina didn't say a word, but instead made a move that would have left all of Los Santos high society slack-jawed. This Ice Queen socialite, once considered untouchable by everyone, actually took the initiative to walk around the wide desk, come to my side, and then quite naturally straddle my lap. She extended those long, fair arms and gently looped them around my neck. I could feel that her body wasn't trembling in the slightest. That top-secret affliction, the one that used to cause her excruciating pain whenever she was touched by the opposite sex, seemed as if it didn't exist at all in my presence. Jaxson, Serafina whispered close to my ear, her breath fragrant, and her voice carrying a tone of absolute submission. I told you before, I don't want to be a discarded pawn on someone else's chessboard. If you are the new tyrant of Los Santos, then I am the most loyal queen in your empire. As long as you don't abandon me, all of the Sterling family's resources, connections, and even I myself, will be the sharpest blade in your hand. I chuckled softly and reached out to wrap my arm around her slender, willow-like waist. At that very moment, the mechanical female voice that had been silent deep in my mind for so long suddenly erupted with a flurry of system notifications, sounding like a wild celebration. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully destroying the ultimate villain force of the Novice Village. The Los Santos domination achievement has been unlocked. System undergoing cross-tire upgrade. Upgrade complete. The Goddess's Secret System Phase 2. Global Chable Hunt mode has been officially activated. The system has detected that as the host's wealth tier leaps forward, the secrets of ordinary underground socialites can no longer satisfy the needs of imperial expansion. The next target pool has been locked. Heiresses of old money European families, Silicon Valley tech queens, and the shadow Chable archduchesses behind Wall Street. Radar scan warning. An Ultra SSS grade secret has been detected in Manhattan, New York. Target: the mysterious female chair of the Federal Reserve's shadow bank. By uncovering this secret, the host will obtain the ultimate authority to subvert the global financial order. A sharp glint suddenly burst from my eyes. Manhattan, New York? An Ultra SSS grade secret? Subverting the global financial order? It seems that this Los Santos, worth a mere $300 billion, is ultimately too small after all. I stood up with my arm around Serafina, and we walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling window. Night had fully descended, and the bustling neon lights of Los Santos spread out beneath our feet like a shimmering sea of stars. Luxury cars on the streets scurried like ants. Those once arrogant power players were now all looking up at this building, looking up at me, from within that sea of stars. Look down there, Serafina. I raised my whiskey glass, offering a distant toast to the night outside. Just 3 days ago, any bastard down there driving a Porsche could point at my nose and call me a grease monkey. But now, with just a flick of my finger, I can decide whether they're eating caviar tomorrow or begging on the streets. I drained the strong liquor in one gulp and casually smashed the glass onto the expensive carpet. But that's not enough. I looked at my own ambitious reflection in the glass window and let out a cold laugh. Get ready, Serafina. Tomorrow morning, we're going to knock on the doors of Wall Street. The tyrant of Los Santos has been born. Now, it's time to let the capitalists of the entire world taste the flavor of trembling. My financial empire has only just begun to rise. The end.